Welcome to AWS reInvent 2022. My name is Brian Westbrook. Along with the GeekWire Studios team, we are here in Las Vegas where tens of thousands of attendees are learning the latest about cloud, AI, and exciting products. We are joined now by one of those innovators in the space. This is Matt Threefoot. Matt is the Director of 5G Edge Products for Verizon. And first of all, welcome to AWS reInvent. What have you seen so far?
Oh, a lot of great events. I mean, I know the keynote's going on now, a lot of great announcements coming out, great sessions yesterday. We had a good talk about how 5G Edge is solving customer problems to an audience yesterday. So it's been a great show so far.
Now, Verizon is no stranger to AWS reInvent. A lot of announcements over the years. What's coming up this year? What's on the top of Verizon business this year?
It's all about expanding our footprint. We've expanded our MEC portfolio to 19 locations across the US. We have a deep private offering tightly coupled with AWS's Outpost and building out our common services platform on top of that.
Now, MEC, for those maybe not familiar, mobile edge computing. Tell us about that and how it's evolved over the last couple of years.
So mobile edge computing is the tight integration of our cellular networks with the cloud infrastructure. So it's basically putting AWS's cloud at the edge of our network. And we offer that in two different flavors. We offer it in public MEC, where it's in our macro commercial network. And we offer it in private MEC, where you take the AWS Outpost on site at a customer's prem and tightly couple it with our private cellular 5G or LTE offerings with it.
What are customers asking you about as far as MEC is concerned? What's top of mind for your customers as you chat with them here at AWS?
I think the biggest thing is how can we solve their business problems? There's a lot of business process automation going, what we call the real-time enterprise. And it's what can they use to take these foundational technologies. So it's less about the technologies and how can we solve their problems and deliver them ROI on it.
Matt, if you will, I want to back up just a little bit. What is mobile edge computing and how does Verizon play in this space?
So mobile edge computing, as I mentioned, is the tight integration of our private cellular networks or our public network with AWS's cloud infrastructure. So it comes in the two flavors where you can either have AWS's wavelength zones embedded in our commercial network, or you can have it on site at a customer's prem where they can have their own private cellular network tightly coupled with an AWS Outpost on-prem.
That sounds complicated. How does a mobile infrastructure show up in an on-prem installation?
Actually, it's making it easier because if you look at a lot of these big facilities, there's many different Wi-Fi access points. I mean, some of the customers we're working with, they have 70 plus different Wi-Fi access points, and it's very complex for them to manage. They have to manage different security zones. They have to manage all the different equipment. So if they want to have a mission critical, high performing, reliable network, we can roll in there, provide them a common indoor, outdoor coverage solution, all with our private cellular network. So they can just activate their device and get it to work. So it's taking the complexity out of their network management so they can focus on what use cases they can do on top of that.
So they can run their business and build their products and develop their solutions. Give us some examples of maybe customers or use cases where this is really becoming practical and tactical.
Sure, absolutely. I think that one of the biggest use cases I like to use is venues. We look at it holistically. We have a portfolio of solutions there. We actually offer 4 different solutions that take advantage of from the moment the fan walks into the stadium to while they're there to when they leave. So it starts with our accelerated physical access solution, where it's a computer vision based solution that uses facial recognition to create a secure identity tied to the ticket. So you no longer have to reach in your pocket, figure out where your ticket is, pull out your smartphone, to get in. You can just walk right in and not have to worry about it. So not only does it increase fan satisfaction, it reduces the operational complexity of the stadium operators. And this is especially important when you talk about VIP experiences. Because if you're a VIP, you got to go through like 3 or 4 different checkpoints, going through the general admission, to the elevator, to the VIP area. So then once you're in the stadium, we then use our crowd analytics solution. So that's basically a real-time heat map to basically say what's the best restroom for you to go to at that time, concession stand, things like that. Or it can be used for the back of the house to say, are people congregating in a certain area? That could be a security incident, things like that. Next up is our cashierless checkout, which again, once you're in the stadium, you know where to go. You want to get in and out of the store as quickly as possible. So you can just go in, get what you need, and get back to your seat, not have to worry about talking to a cashier or waiting in long lines. We're trying to make it as frictionless as possible. And then last but not least is creating an immersive fan experience. So basically taking high def 4K resolution video and combining it in real time into a fan experience application. So mashing up a bunch of different content in real time using our high bandwidth, low latency networks to do it. So.
Let's go back to the access control because that's a big issue. I can't stand fumbling with tickets or change the brightness on your phone and all those issues when you try to get into an arena. What technology is behind that to allow that seamless entry? Let's start with the general admission and we'll dive into the VIP experience in just a second.
Sure, it's all computer vision. And actually the brilliance of our solution is we're not actually worried about your face or identifying Brian versus Matt. It's basically taking the biometric features to do your identity. So it's very secure. We don't have any privacy issues that some other solutions have, where we can just look at you, take those different biometric points along your face. It works whether you're wearing a hat or a mask or things like that, so you can get right in. So with just normal cameras around the entry point.
And what happens if that fails? Like, do you still have a backup ticket? Is there still sort of a fail-safe solution? And are you finding that's even necessary?
I mean, yeah, people will still have the backup tickets on their phone that they can fall to, but we don't find that it's necessary because that's the whole goal of our solutions. They're mission critical, reliability, high performance, so you don't have to worry about that. But
I know for everyone watching, you're certainly going to events. We're all kind of getting out into the world again. So this is very exciting technology. Walk us through that VIP experience just a little more, in a little more detail. I live in the Seattle area. We have an arena. I had a VIP experience where I had to pull out the ticket multiple times to get through there, whether that be to go to the VIP pre-party, to go to a certain elevator, to get down to the different access levels. How does that work, and why is that a game changer for arenas?
I think it just makes things quicker. I mean, all about it's automating the processes. You don't want your VIPs to have to wait in a big line to get in. You don't want them to be frustrated to say, I have yet another checkpoint that I have to pull this out. Gosh, how many times do I have to get through? If they can just walk and you have people directing them where to go, it's seamless and it makes them happy and want to come back. So.
And speaking of wanting to come back, customers are a big piece of this. And you're talking about retailing applications where you can have cashierless checkout. Now, we think of cashierless checkout, our first thought is self-checkout lines, but this is far more than that. Explain the difference and why this technology is really important and really going to completely revolutionize the way we shop.
Yeah, so I mean, I think, again, the beauty of our solution is strictly computer vision based. So you can use the same cameras you're using for accelerated physical access for a cashierless checkout. You just put the cameras mounted around the store, take your off-the-shelf ones. You don't need heavy weighted sensors, special shelves. You can use all your standard stuff and just use the cameras to do it. What you do, we have two different types of solutions. It can either be integrated in our fan experience application where you already have your credit card and everything there. So you just go in, scan the QR code, take what you need and get out. Or if you're a one-time shopper, you can just tap your credit card. So you tap your credit card, we pre-authorize it, the gate opens, you walk into the store, take what you need, and then walk out. And then you can either get a receipt or not, depending on what you need.
So you've rolled this out in a couple of different instances. Explain to us how this is changing, whether it be the volume of spend or the amount of customers they can go through or lowering cost. What are some applications where this is changing the business model in some respects?
No, absolutely. I think one of the greatest cases we've seen is during the pandemic. We showed what the concession store operated before versus us. And we actually saw attendance was down like 20-25% between when our store was there versus the beforehand. But even though attendance was down, revenue was up 139%. And the reason it was up that much is because we saw people take 80% more items because they were in the store like 50% less of the time, less staff that needed to do it. So it reduced the store's cost, it increased their revenue, it increased their fan satisfaction, got people in and out, no queuing. So we've seen great results. People have been, chomping at the bit to say, how can I get more of these? So.
And I think from a customer experience standpoint, it makes it that much easier for the customer. And sort of once you go through it the one time, you get checked in, then the next time you go back to that store, whether it be fan merchandise or just simple everyday items, it makes it that much easier. Let's get geeky for just a second. Let's tie MEC to this customer experience. What is the technology behind the scenes? If you were to pull back the curtain, how does it all work?
Sure. So I think the beauty of MEC, especially when you're looking at a stadium, you don't want a data center in your stadium. You don't want racks and racks of computers there. Basically, all you have is you have your cameras, either 5G embedded enabled cameras or have them wired to a 5G router that can just broadcast it, and it broadcasts it to the closest wavelength zone. So you basically use your compute just like you would in the cloud. So you can use on-demand instances, any GPU instance type. So the closest wavelength zone you get get routed to during the stadium. During the game time, you're using that instance, and then when it's done, you spin it down and you're good to go. So there's no on-prem computers. All you truly need is the store hardware and the cameras in the stadium.
We've talked a lot about stadiums, and it's a fascinating application for me personally with some experience in this space. What are some other places where MEC has been rolled out and found success, whether it be making things easier, making things cheaper, or just improving the customer experience?
I think the biggest thing is we see a lot in manufacturing and logistics facilities. We see a lot where these big facilities, their Wi-Fi networks aren't reliable, or they're very cumbersome. They have a ton of different access points. They have to manage the different separate networks for contractors versus employees, different types of equipment. And being able to have a private cellular network there where they can just activate the device, put on the access control list to say what they can access, who can get to them, makes it very simple. And then once you have it, again, a lot of computer vision technology, because we're seeing that because it's high bandwidth, low latency, real-time processing that 5G really enables. So we're seeing quality assurance applications. So basically using computer vision to look at an assembly line to say, do you have product defect issues? Like, do you have, whether it's a potato chip or a piece of fiber, like, do you have the right amount of seasoning, or do you have any other defects in it, to make sure your product comes out 100% of the time? Another thing we've seen is in a lot of these quality assurance applications, inventory doesn't get updated until the QA process happens. Right. And that can sometimes, in today's fashion, not happen for a day or two or many hours afterwards. So it causes the inventory records to get out of sync. So you'd be surprised how many factories or how many warehouses still use clipboards, papers, and pencils to track their inventory. So if you can do this all in real time and you can do the QA process, not only do you make sure the quality is good 100% of the time, but you can update your inventory records in real time so that your database is up to date and your people can trust in it.
And you can have better quality potato chips.
And you can have better quality potato chips.
I mean, I heard everything you said, but when you said potato chips and the appropriate seasoning, it's interesting because I'm sitting here thinking, who makes sure that each chip in the bag has the right amount of seasoning? And I know that's kind of a little bit of a silly example, but it really kind of helps you illustrate how this technology can be applied to making sure that each individual chip in the bag has a consistent amount of seasoning. You can certainly imagine applications in electronics or home goods or whatever you're manufacturing.
Absolutely. And I think even for our own resources, we like to drink our own champagne. So in our warehouses, we have our forward and reverse logistics facilities where we're receiving in a ton of new phones, supply, earbuds and things like that. And we automate that process to say, is it an Apple iPod, or is it a cheaper version that you just want to throw away versus can you resell it? So automating that process to generate more revenue, where we were incorrectly throwing away merchandise that had a value to it. Now we can recoup that and generate more revenue from our reverse logistics facility. And then from a forward logistics standpoint, it's making sure that the people packing the boxes when it's going out to the stores, that has the right number of iPhones versus Samsung versus other thing in the boxes, and the boxes are packed 100% right all the time. And so it's done quicker with more accuracy to enable a good customer experience.
How long has Verizon been, as you say, and I love this expression, drinking your own champagne using this technology in the forward and reverse logistics?
Oh, a number of years, a couple of years. We put a very purposeful exercise on it. So not only do we do that in our logistics facilities, the cashierless checkout, we actually have it in our headquarters and our different hubs. So people can go in and just walk out. We use our crowd analytics offering so we can manage where people are going. So we're trying to showcase, not only showcase the solutions in a good environment, but use it to automate our business processes. So we put this effort in a couple years ago, I'd probably say 2 or 3 years ago, and have been rolling it out, across the board, starting it at our headquarters in Baskin Ridge, and then expanding it to our Texas facilities, our Boston facilities, and kind of showing the value.
So we've talked a little bit about where you're at with MEC today. And obviously here at AWS reInvent in Las Vegas, lots of exciting things on the horizon. Give us a look at what's to come and what you're excited about in the future.
I think some of the biggest things that I'm excited about is continuing to refine our 5G networks. Our 5G standalone cores were recently upgraded. Network slicing is on the horizon. So think of a world where you can create dedicated slices with dedicated performance characteristics inside a factory or across our mobile network. So you can have even more fine-grained quality assurance parameters for some of these applications to make them quicker, more reliable, and better performing for our end customers.
So if you have 1 million units of bandwidth, you can dedicate 100,000 of them to this particular application and 200,000 to this application to make them run faster, to make them run smoother, all of the above?
Yeah, I mean, think of it as an easy pass lane, right? I mean, all highways get congested, you have an easy pass lane. And it's especially prevalent in like the public sector areas. Sure. So if you have public sector, emergency type applications, you want them to be in their easy pass lane. Same thing in a factory. If you have things that are doing the day-to-day operations of the machines, they need to be in their easy pass lane versus maybe general Wi-Fi access for employees with laptops and things like that. So, got a lot of great things coming from a quality assurance standpoint and being able to segregate our network and be able to take the full advantage of the 5G offerings. So.
You mentioned a vertical, government, obviously a big sector, a big part of Verizon's business. What are some other verticals, some other industries that you're really spending a lot of time focusing and applying this technology into?
So manufacturing and logistics, as I mentioned before, there are key areas from a private MEC, an on-site 5G LTE standpoint. We're looking at retail and venues more from a public MEC standpoint, because since we've lit up those stadiums with our commercial core, I would say financial services and healthcare are kind of more earlier in that area. We've worked with a bunch of customers, whether it be BlackRock or MasterCard, to say how can we roll in a private 5G network and show them the power of that high bandwidth, low latency, high performing mission critical network and what they can do to take advantage of it. So whether it be high frequency trading or other type of offerings there, kind of show them that value and get going. Healthcare, we have one working with some of the leading healthcare providers to say, again, how can we provide a reliable, high-performing network to hospitals? Because if you look at a hospital room, there's a ton of technology in there. There's a ton of compute, wires. Doctors don't want to have to deal with that. They want to take care of you. They don't want to have to take care of the computer in the corner. So as much as we can offload that, by having things be connected to a private cellular network and then have them either be connected to an on-site compute or to our AWS wavelength offering, it provides more seamless operations with better performance and more use cases that we can do.
Now, Matt, I know you deal specifically with 5G and edge compute. Explain to me how Verizon and AWS work together.
Oh, it's a deep partnership. So we work together, whereas, from a public MEC standpoint, it's the technology to say how we're going to get it to work, because it was the first time in the world that was ever done, kind of embedding their compute that deep into our network and kind of creating that architecture. So the deep technical relationship to make sure that tight integration works well. Then there's the business relationship, where AWS has a ton of developers, right? As we can see at reInvent, right? The hundreds of thousands of people that use the AWS platform any day of the week. They know their developer space. We've been working with them so we can have the same exact APIs and tool sets that the developers use in the cloud apply on MEC. So there's as little friction as possible. And we've been using, AWS has been working with us where they can kind of offer those services directly to their developers, and we kind of help them behind the scenes. Versus on the private MEC standpoint, we're the lead in a lot of space because we have those deep enterprise relationships. So we will work to develop the use cases, spec out the private network, and kind of spec out how much compute we need, and then work with AWS to help deliver it to it for us. There's also a lot of co-solution development, a lot of co-partnerships. It takes a village, right? So we're working with a lot of system integrators, all the leading system integrators in the space, and make sure we have that good three-way relationship between us, AWS, and the system integrator to deliver these enterprise applications. So.
We've covered a lot of ground in the last few minutes, and I appreciate your time. I want to get one more question out, if I may. If you're watching this video and you're thinking, how can someone get started? What would you say to them? Like, what's the first step, the next step? What should they be thinking about?
I think it's start with the connectivity. I mean, our first mission is connect everything faster and more securely so we can deliver differentiated business value. So let's focus on, we can start small. Start small in an area and let's prove the power of what private 5G or what 5G can do. And then once we do that and we showcase that performance, then let's start to brainstorm how we can apply it to your business operations to show that true ROI.
And what would a customer want to do? How would they reach out? How would they get a hold of Verizon Business? What would the sort of first and next step be to say like, okay, this is something I might see an application for? Or maybe they don't know what the applications are. How would they get some ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest thing, because we have deep relationship with pretty much all the Fortune 500 companies, is talk to their account representative that they're talking to on a daily basis. But if they don't have it, if it's a smaller type of company, then it's go to our website. We have the dedicated Verizon.com/5G kind of website where they can go request a sales contact and kind of go from there.
And one of the great things about these conferences is these conversations, being able to connect and being able to network, coming up with ideas. I know there are a lot of developers, a lot of executives here that are thinking about, what do I want to do next? What does my next plan look like? We're coming out of the pandemic. People are getting back together. They're maybe coming back on premises. They're going to arenas. They're going to shows. So closing thoughts, what would you say to that audience that are thinking about these ideas, that are here at AWS reInvent?
I mean, everything about 5G is to deliver the real-time enterprise to our customers. So having that, high-performing, fully automated network and use cases. So everybody, no matter what business you're in, is saying, how do I automate my business processes? So that's it. Work with us to unlock the power of 5G to do exactly that. Automate your business processes and deliver true business value to you.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for your time today. A lot of great information, a lot of great content. That was Matt Threefoot with Verizon Business. My name is Brian Westbrook. You are watching our coverage from AWS reInvent. This is GeekWire Studios.